Welcome to the bold analysis. Kenyan industrialization blueprint cannot be realized if we do not define our position in the global north. And I want to show you a very shocking video about some presentation that was being done somewhere to show you what actually perpetuates the low underdevelopment and actually the low economy level of the African sub-Saharan African countries. It's a video that someone just sent to me, and I want you to watch that video because it's going to give this analysis a bearing.
If you are an African, you really need to watch this. Africa is in trouble.
Sub-Saharan Africa has been fundamental to the global prosperity of the advanced countries. And Africa had a role to play. It has a role as a raw material producer. We will not allow Sub-Saharan Africa to escape that. Okay, we do everything to keep Sub-Saharan Africa where it is, also impoverished. It's absolutely vital for the prosperity of everyone else. So let's get clear about that. Okay, and this means all the economic structures, all the global institutions, and the economics we teach everyone is all designed to keep Africa exactly where it is. And whether it is Europe or US or now China, it's always the same. We need Africa to be impoverished because we need those raw materials and we need them dirt cheap. Okay, so that's the message. It doesn't mean to say that there's nothing Africans can do. Of course there is. This is what it's about. Because if Africa does do something different, I assure you living standards of all those in Europe and North America and Asia is going to fall. Okay? And that is a big price to pay. I assure you that the West is not going to allow that without a big fight. Okay, so the job of many Western academics is to convince Africans they have to keep doing what they're doing. Okay, and to show them it's your fault that you're poor. It's not our fault. It's your fault that you're poor. You know, so this is what we do in academic institutions. We know the basic forces that have caused this underdevelopment. We know it's colonization. We cannot afford to allow Africa to industrialize and start producing manufactures. Okay, so we will do everything to stop that. And I'm going to show you how we actually block that. We had East Asian rapid industrialization processes. So in the earlier period, we had Japan and Korea and Taiwan. Okay, rapid growth, sucking in raw materials from Africa, driving up the prices. After those countries finished industrialization, then Sub-Saharan African growth rate again fell. Sub-Saharan Africa is condemned to this role, just the supplier of raw materials, not a manufacturer. The currencies are collapsing of these countries, and many of them are Sub-Saharan African countries. After colonization ended, we needed new structures to keep these countries where they were. Okay? And the first of those is aid. Okay? We give them aid. Aid for what? Actually, we give them aid to keep repressive regimes in power. That's all. All the hypocrisy about transparency and democracy and bullshit like that, it's all bullshit. But it would go to country after country offering loans. And if the president did not accept the loan, they were killed. It's just economics. It's economic warfare. The rich declare war on the poor. It happens everywhere. It happens in a country. The rich control the government. Of course they do. You really believe you have democracy? Come on. You know, I mean, grow up. Who has all the subsidies and income support?
That presentation summarizes why Africa is poor. And so, it's an interesting one for yourself to watch. During a recent Labor Day celebration, President Ruto, while reading his speech, attributed to a statement or some fact here that Germany is in need of 25 million labor force every year against a population. I've just did my research, and you can also search German population in 2021 was 83.2 million. I don't know whether that can be fact checked as true or false, whether they really their labor force, the labor force they need is 25 million per year. But so does it mean, and if we are to take what the president said, then you can clearly see that there is supposed to be bilateral talks on labor, on labor migration between the two countries. So you can see that our understanding is on how we are going to take the young people or our labor, how we are going to export labor. Instead of that, inside here, I don't believe that instead of glorifying export of labor, we should actually look for locally what are they doing different that Kenya is not doing. Now, this is what Ruto said about that labor market.
Nilikuwa Ujerumani na kiongozi wa Ujerumani atakuwa hapa on Thursday. Chancellor wa Ujerumani atakuwa hapa Thursday. Na katika hiyo mkutano tumekubaliana tutasign bilateral labor agreement ili wananchi wa Kenya wapate nafasi, kwa sababu wametueleza wanahitaji wafanyikazi milioni 250 kila mwaka Ujerumani.
Now, I saw Kenyans really challenging that fact, saying that it is not factual. Those who are in Germany and those who are privy to these figures can really help us fact check. But so be it, instead of glorifying exports of our labor, we should focus on what we can also do. Even recently, after meeting the Japan Prime Minister, there was also the same story of we are going to align our education system like that of Japan so that they can absorb our labor force. And I was like, so I looked at it like this way. So Japan is one of the leading countries in terms of industrialization. Why don't we compare notes on what we are doing here so that we can also develop as a country? And instead of sending the young people away to go and work and develop those nations, we can also develop our nation here. It's bordering issues of industrialization as what that video is. Sudan is at war, and it is triggered by, scramble for resources. DRC, the contentious gold that is still going on there. Independence on the IMFs and the World Banks of our time, according to me, has put us into some debt traps. Loans, the character, or rather the plans of just taking loans to service our budget obligations have put up into our countries into some debt traps, and we cannot even help ourselves. Even at the behest of Mwananchi, we are caged. Things are not good. People are struggling with inflation, but we cannot give subsidies because we must obey this institution. Recently, there is a very interesting lamentation that we got from President Ruto. President William Ruto said that 55 African presidents should not fly to Europe to meet one man, and they're being driven in cars like primary school kids. And I think he was referring to the just concluded African Leaders Summit in the US that was held in December. And I think even in Europe, they were driven by bus to attend Queen Elizabeth's burial. That is my mantra, that we should think Africa, or rather we should think Kenya. There are some few things that Africa must get right, or rather Kenya must get right. We must domicile our elections in Africa and limit the foreign influence, because the much we have that foreign influence, we produce leading leaders that seems to be working just to serve international interests. The more we serve international interest, from that video you've just seen, the interest is to explore what is in Africa to get use of these resources. I was just reading some article, some that was showing that the tea that is sold here is exported, processed, then imported back. We even import processed tea and coffee. I was shocked about that. So it's here, produced here, but it has to be taken to Europe and processed, then brought here. Why can't we do it here? Why can't we do that value addition here so that we export it at a very high value? We must reduce the wage bill that is making us have a bloated payroll. The bloated payroll is what is reducing funds that we can put in manufacturing. In fact, that money that William Ruto is telling us is in Hustler Fund should be rerouted to some manufacturing fund so that we can exploit the oil in Turkana. In my place, I have always wondered, gold is a very lucrative business, and in fact, in this country, even in my own village, people are doing gold. Why can't government invest in that so that we export that gold? It's a potential that is there. I know it's areas of Nyatike, in some areas of Siaya, and I think some parts of Nyakach. Why don't we invest in that so that we can export it? The more we export, those are the resources in Africa. We must tame corruption and make sure that the little resources we use can be used to develop Africa. But if we can't just go the way it goes, then I don't think we are going to it. The conducive environment, and this is very key, predictable tax policies that can help the labor market thrive. Today, the Finance Bill 2023 has proposed 35% per year for those earning above 500,000. I'm telling you, the more you earn, the more you're taxed. And some 5% tax on false braids, false hair and the braids, and the upscaling of NHIF statutory reductions like NHIF and NSSF. So the hustler there will have to part with 1,000 for NSSF and NHIF, which these are some of the things we're talking about, that we should have predictable tax regime. It doesn't work because you're taxing more, but the inflation is also at the roof. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's my take, a key into what Africa needs to develop itself.